Morning, everyone. Just to recap what we have covered yesterday, we started. First, we have defined the specified ledger options. So, under that, we have discussed the concept on the futurable period or future interval period. Then, what should be the first open period? Then, what will be the accounting method, general language, and the concept of return earnings behind this. So, once we have defined this one, okay. So then we had discussed on the creating the legal under the legal structures. We have created the legal entity. Then we have assigned the legal entity. Under this legal entity, we have assigned the primary ledger. So primary ledger is connected with the legal entity. Then we have completed the review and submit accounting configuration, which is mandatory. Now we will be moving ahead with with assigning the roles to the user or to the consultants. Let's have that as well. So we will go back to now we need to assign the primary ledger to the relevant either the consultant or the user. So what we will do is first we will have the roles being assigned to the user. So under tools, security console, users, I'm going to search for my username. So as of now, whatever we have, right, IT security manager, we are using it for user creation, reset password, assigning the roles. And the rest of these three, we are using it for the configurations or doing the setups. If we don't have this, so we definitely face challenges of doing the configuration. So every consultant should be having these three in the real world as well. Now, apart from that, now we are shifting ourselves from the consultant to user base. So user base means the difference between consultant and user. So what it can be, let's first try to understand that, then we will discuss. So we are talking here about consultant, user. Consultant is more to do with doing the configurations. Here, user is going to work on production, which is nothing but live system in the real world. And user will not have any setup roles, will not be having any setup roles. So consultant will never be working on production. Always remember this. This is very important from the interview perspective. In the interview, they may ask, I am a consultant. Can I or will I be working on the production environment? No, we don't touch production environment. It is only used by the user. So now we are going to edit. So we are going to add a role. We are going to add a role. So that role is for the general ledger. So now why are we adding a role? So till now, whatever we have done is something which is relevant out of the general ledger. Means whatever roles we had are all relevant either to creation of user or doing the setups and all those things. Now we will be getting into core module activity. So there are two important roles for general ledger. So one is general accountant. So always use this aura underscore this. So assign this one, general accountant. Then we have general accounting manager. So this is the one. Now what is the difference between these two is general accounting manager is where he can open the periods, he can close the periods, he can run the financial statements and all those. General accountant will be having limited access. He cannot run, he cannot open the period, he cannot close the financial period and all those. So that is the difference. So we have general accountant and general accounting manager. So these two are important. So now I have assigned these two roles, general accountant and accounting manager. So I'm going to done, save and close. It is done now. So always it is suggested whenever you assign any roles, you try to log out and log in to have the proper impact of it. The moment I'm assigned with the general, now I had been assigned with general accountant and general accounting manager. So now let's go back to setup again. I can go to setup from here, enterprise setup and maintenance, as well as from there. So now I'm into general ledger. So I will click on all task. So there is something called as manage data ledger access for the users. So there is another way of assigning the access to the users. So I click on users and security here. So I click on all task. We have something called as manage data access for users. So whenever we want to assign any roles pertaining to the modules, which can be general ledger or accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets, cash management, we can do it through this one. So this is users and security. Under that, we have this manage data access for users. I click on this. So this is the first time you are seeing this screen. So manage data access for users. So what is the difference between this screen and the security, IT security screen? So that IT security is used for accessing or providing the configuration role, and this screen is to provide the user with access to the business data. That is the major difference. That IT security, we are using it to configure, to do the configurations for the system or to the modules or offerings. This one is particularly useful to assign the user with the relevant business ledger or business data to do relevant or access the transactions. So now you could find here something as a create. So I click on this. Whatever the user which we have in the system, which we are creating through the IT security manager, that will be available over here. So I'm going to select or enter my username. Then we have the role. Role is nothing but whatever the roles which are given to me through the IT security manager, those will be available here. Unless and until I don't assign myself the role like general accountant and accounting manager first in the IT security screen, it will not appear over here. That is the reason what I did is first I went to that IT security manager. Under that, I selected my user and I assigned those two roles. Now I'm going to assign this or select this role. So security context is nothing but data access. So based on each role, this will get changed. Data access set is nothing but whatever we created the ledger that we are going to assign it. So I'm going to select data access set. Here I'm going to select the ledger name. So thing is now whenever in the real world as well, whenever we are going to create the primary ledger, after that we are going to assign the user with this relevant role. So maybe based on the role, you will be need to access general accountant or accounting manager. So if you have general accounting manager means you no need to have general accountant because that is at the high level. It will cover everything. So if you have general accountant means you are restricted with few of the functionalities. But for the training purpose, I'm going to assign both as well. So I'm going to select the primary lecture. So if, let's say, for example, I wrongly assign or something, I can always use this duplicate to create one more or this one to clear it. So the moment I click on this, it will get cleared. I need to assign one more. We can assign the unique one. If I try to assign the same general accountant, for example, it will give me the error because we can have at any point of time only one which is unique. So I'm going to select the user. So here I'm going to select. So now I'm going to select the general accounting manager. Same and commence. Sorry. I can assign to any other users as well. So let's say, for example, here, anyone created the users, please. Anyone give me your username.
Devasis.
Devasis. Okay. So Devasis is the user, so I can assign Devasis. You could see here, I'm not able to assign Devasis. The reason is, first, Devasis needs to have this role being assigned at the IT security level. Once it is assigned, then only he will be able to access here this one. Even though the user is created, unless and until it is there, we cannot assign. And assigning this one is of no use because here we are talking about the business. Okay. So what I will do is I will just clear this. So now I have assigned to save and close. So now this is done. Always there is one recommendation. So we have here initial users. Whenever we assign any roles, run this user and role synchronization process. What happens is system will try to internally run this. One or more requests are currently pending. So already that process is being run or someone submitted, maybe from the other batch or whatever. So now once I have assigned it is always suggested to sign out and sign in back. So now you could see that earlier I did not have this general accounting or intercompany accounting. So if I click here, you will find that to my user, I have general accounting dashboard, journals, and period close. So these are relevant to the general ledger. Till now, few minutes before, I was only a consultant, but now I have become I can be called as a key user, app user as well. So we will come to this later on. I need to have more setup or configuration.
So, sir, like in article, we have this menu and functions, right? Instead of that, we are doing this activity, correct?
So this activity is nothing but like a responsibility. In
Yeah.
article, we have a responsibility. The
Hmm.
same way that definition is role over here.
Okay.
So now I'm into general ledger. So under the required task, we are going to have the open first period. So either I can open the first period from here, or I can open the first period from the screen as well under the general accounting period close here. I can assign it from both. So the reason why we need to have it either from this or the other one is this one is mostly 99% for the users and that one is for the consultant. Why? Because at least the consultant should be opening first period or assigning the first period to see if there are any issues or anything. So for that reason, we will come to the screen later. First, let me assign in the first period. So again, I'm into enterprise, setup and maintenance, general ledger, open first period. This is the one. So I'm going to click on this. So I'm going to select the primary ledger. So here you could see data access set is primary ledger, ledger or ledger set is primary. So we can assign multiple primary ledgers to the user. What he needs to have? He needs to have either general accountant or general accounting manager. If either of that is there, let's assume that tomorrow you created a primary ledger, all of you, I can assign it. I can go ahead and assign it all those ledgers to my user. A person or a user can have multiple ledger access. Why? Because maybe he is a CFO or he is at the very top level, a chairman or a group head, something like that. So he can have access to all those ledgers. Even the internal auditors, if we in the organization we have 10 different ledgers, they can they will be provided access to it. But user base may be based on each legal entity, he will be having only access to it. Let's say, for example, in this application, we might be having operations in Singapore, we are having a legal entity in Dubai, we have a legal entity for China. So, based on users, they can have access individually, but at the higher level, CFO, CEO level, we can give access to all the ledgers. So, now this is very important. Like we are going to open the first period. If you remember this accounting period, when we have defined the calendar, at that time we have given this. Now, here, let's say, for example, we are currently in the month of September. Or let's assume that our go live is happening in September. So we can directly open this period. But it is always suggested if our go live is in September or let's say October, it is advisable to open one prior period. So let's say if we are going to have February, we are going to go live, so open Jan. If I'm going to go live in October, open September as well. The reason is there is something called as the concept of translation. We will discuss that later on. So it is important for translation to have this prior period open. So there is a concept of secondary ledger, which we will discuss in coming sessions. So for that, we need to have one prior period open. So if we are going to go live in, let's assume in October, September to be open. If you are going go live in September, we need to start with August. So what I will do is I will start with, for example, August itself. So I click on submit. Any questions here, please, before I submit? Who is going to do the real activity in the real world is the user, because either the key user or the financial user consultant, I would say not consultant, the user or the CFO or whoever is having authority to open and close the periods, they are going to do this. So now I'm going to submit it. So this is the first time you are seeing this process. So what is this process? So any activity which we submit, particularly to the user base, in the background, the system will work or process this one. So this gives a process number. So at any point of time, we find some issues, or if it is running or completed and all those things, we can always go ahead and check this. So I click on OK. So now, if I want to check how I'm going to do that, under Tools, I click on plus. We will add one process or program, which is something called as schedule processes. So let's go to that. So under Tools, we have something called as schedule processes. So we have schedule processes. I'm going to save and close. So under Tools, we have this schedule processes. Any activity which is being submitted, in the background, the system will work for it. The purpose of having or running this process is we can schedule many of the processes, we can automate the system. So for that reason, these scheduled processes will be there. We will discuss in detail more. As of now, just try to understand when we submit it, for example, it will show here whatever the processes which are done or completed, for example. Again, we will come to this later on. So now what we have done is, if we talk about the setup and maintenance, under general ledger, we have opened the first period. So with this, we come to the conclusion on the setup. It means to say that we are now good to start using the system, using the module. So prior to that, let's go back and let's have one slide exclusively to mention what we have learned or what are the GL setup. So this is very important, and whenever you are preparing for your interviews, you need to follow these slides. Even not only that, for your setups or for your assignments, everything, you need to have this general ledger setup. So please Someone help me to put the points here. What is the first thing we are going to do it? Yes, please. Second one, what is the important? Yes, please. Anyone wants to volunteer to help me?
Three C's, chart of account.
Yeah, so we have to start with value set, right? Then we are going to define the account structure. When I say account structure, I am covering in that the segments, assigning those value sets, having the
Instance.
segment qualifiers, primary balancing, account, natural account, and cost center. Then we are going to have account instance. Why I'm highlighting this one is, as it is, it will be asked in the interview. The moment you say on the resume, I have done the general ledger setup. So the interviewer will tell, please take me through all the setups right from legal entity till opening of the first period. So then we have deploy, then value set, values,
Primary ledger.
then
Account. Currency.
currency, then define primary ledger options, assign legal entity or primary.
Calendar was there also.
Which one, sir?
Calendar.
Yes, I have already mentioned, right? Create
Oh, yeah.
accounting calendar.
Oh,
So then we have,
Review and
sorry,
review and submit.
yes, then that's it. If you have these 15 steps thoroughly done, trust me, you are the GL consultant. So these one you should be by hearting, or whenever you get a refresh instance again, or whenever you want to practice, you need to ensure that you are going to have all these things. I will copy this slide later on after this session exclusively as a GL setup. One slide. Keep it this handy always for yourself. It will be very useful as well. If you want to take a mobile screenshot, please go ahead and have this as handy always. So this is very important and critical. So if you are done with this, means you are master of GL. Any questions on any of these things, please? These 15 steps are the one which are mandatory for every functional consultant. Maybe I'm expert in AP later on, or AR or fixed assets, but as a financial consultant, I should be knowing these 15 steps. If you are master in this, means you are almost done. 50 to, for freshers, I will say 50 to 80% you are done with your GL knowledge. Okay, so that is there. Now let's move back or go back to, like, now we are done as a consultant. Now we will try to act as a user. For some time, let's forget that we are consultants now. We will be users. So as a user, I log in into the system. I'm going to find three things. These are called as infolets. So general accounting dashboard, journals, and period close. This general accounting dashboard is a new feature being introduced for every module in Fusion. Earlier versions are 12. It was not there, but creation of journals, period close, all those were there as well. So I click on general accounting dashboard. So I will get a screen which is relevant. This you could see here, and you could see here the data access set is Amazon primary ledger. In R12, what we used to have is, we used to have Whatever I assign general accountant is called as a responsibility, but in Fusion it is referred as role. And if I want to change from one entity, legal entity to other, you need to switch the responsibility or to the module that is not applicable here. We will be having data access set. So based on that, we will assign or we will switch to different ledgers. So the user will find this account monitor, intercompany transaction.
Sir, can you please explain in detail about that one once again, please?
Yeah, I will come to that point. Okay. So here we have in the dashboard account monitor, intercompany transactions, journals, whatever journals we create, that will be here, and close status. So these close status will be accessed particularly by the general accounting manager. Okay, so for that reason we have this close status. So just to repeat again, I will come to this data access point. So we have something here, journals and period close. I will first start with
Sir,
period close.
infolet is this GL accounting dashboard journal. These things are called infolets. Huh?
Yes, exactly. Right. So I will come to this later on again on journals and general accounting dashboard. So we have period close. I click on this. So as of now, I have access to only one primary ledger. That is why it has taken default. And where I have assigned this data access set, if you remember, we have queried in the role in the data access set, right? I selected user Basha, then the role general accountant, then I selected the primary ledger, Amazon primary ledger. If I had multiple, then system will ask me which one you want to log in. So this is more to do in the R12 as a responsibility. Like we are going to access the responsibility, and that indirectly that responsibility is attached with the set of book. The same concept is here. Instead of set of book, we talk here about the primary ledger, like MO operating unit, right? Similar way, we are talking here about the having the, when I say primary ledger, indirectly, I am referring to Amazon legal entity as well. So here you could find the ledger and accounting period. So why it is showing as September? So system will always show here the latest open accounting period. Now we have general ledger, receivables, projects, payables. This we will come later on. We will discuss on this one. General ledger. So I click on this. Now you will find that as I open August, right, you could see all these are, for example, close. Why? Because, sorry, open. Why? Because I selected to open the August, but as our first period was April, system will automatically open these periods as well. Whatever were there in the background or prior to this, it will open. Now you could see the statuses with these symbols. This is open. Close means like this one green, permanently close, and future April. As I open August, you could see that September and October are future enterable. If I open September, system will make October and November as a future enterable period. We can always, it is recommended to close the periods which are not in use. So if I want, you could see the statuses here. Close, future enterable, open, and permanently close. So let's say, for example, I want to make or I want to open this period. So the moment I select on this, system identifies we need to open this period. I can click on this. If I want to close, let's say April, you could see system will switch to this. So I can click on close period. So system will be closing this period. And you could see a process has been submitted. So all the activities or whatever we click on this action, it will work in the background. So now, if I try to enter any transaction, system will not allow me to do it for at least for April because I initiated to close that. If I want to check the status, I can always click on this. This is a refresh. Click on this. Now you could see April is changed to close. If unless and until I don't make it as permanently closed, again I can open this period. In case, let's say for example, we already closed April, May, June, all these things, July. So assume that these are all closed permanently. If I want to enter any transaction for these periods, I can do that in August, something called as a adjusting period, or in September as well, based on the quarter. So for us, the quarter will be June or it will be September. So now, if I open September, my October and November will become automatically the future entry. So you could see that the process has been submitted. So this is the GL process. So it refers the module with internal process or activity, which has this.
And sir, one query. Here in
Yes,
the
please.
like for one role, we are assigning this based on the role. The general ledger access, the data access set is based on the role. So if one
Yes.
has to see like a high level user, they need to see two ledgers. Do they need to have two user accounts?
No, one user account with multiple. It's similar, like for example, let's say you have a bank account in ICICI, correct? Now, assume that you open today your savings account and tomorrow you also open your FD account, correct? So you will be having only one account to log in into the ICICI portal, but you will have multiple accounts, right? The similar way, only one user is enough. We can have multiple ledgers being assigned to that user. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you could see that the moment I open September, automatically system will open October and November. I can just create the transaction in October and November, but I cannot post it because that is not open. Only in the open period we can have this. Now you could see that if I click here November, I click open, automatically system will open December as well as the future enterable. Okay. This is about the opening of the period, and you could see here the latest open period is September. Done. So this is in terms of period close. We will come back again later on to discuss when we do the closing. So in the closing, what happens is Oracle is providing a new feature where we can run one of the exception reports to identify what are the issues in the subledger closing and all those. We will come later on to discuss on this as well. As of now, we open the general ledger period. Now we will try to be as a user. To start with user, I click on journals. So this is the screen where we will be having, even you have seen this on the dashboard as well. For the generals also you will find requiring attention, incomplete if there are any import errors. Import errors means general ledger is the main ledger. And whenever we are moving data from sub ledgers, or even we can directly import data to GL interface. So for that reason, this is available. So here we have something called as task. So these are what we are going to learn as a user. How to create journal, and we can also upload the journals from spreadsheet. So this is something called as ADFDI tool. Application desktop, that one. So we will discuss in detail as well. There is a tool provided by Oracle which will be integrated with Excel sheet, and we have that, so we can upload the journals in the Excel sheet directly into the system. Not only for that, for every module they have provided that feature. We will discuss on this, what is auto post, auto reverse, all these things later on. First we will start with the base, which is create journal. Now,
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Before going to this page, can you please explain once again about the infolets and that data access set assigning of the data? I did not understand that one.
okay,
In infolets.
so this one, like, let's assume that we are going to have a user. Okay, so we are going to assign the, for that user we need to have, let's assume that it's a business user, so we need to assign the role for that. So when I say role, we are talking about the general accountant or accounting manager. And let's assume that we have multiple primary ledgers. Has anyone till now created any primary ledger in this system? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's go back to my enterprise, setup and maintenance. Let's go back to users and security, all tasks, manage data access for users. So now let me have access to this. I'm going to create, I'm going to select username Basha. So the role is general accountant or accounting manager. Data access it. Yeah, can you please give me your ledger name, primary ledger?
The sun power.
One power primary ledger. Okay. So now what I'm trying to do is, so this user Basha, now I'm assigning this primary ledger. Okay. So I'll save and close. So it's done. Always advisable. Just log out and log in back again. So I'm into general accounting. Let's say journals. So once we run the LDAP, okay, I will be getting the access here for both the ledgers. Now I should be getting the access to Amazon primary ledger as well as to the Sun Power primary ledger as well. So we have something called as under setup maintenance. We need to run this initial users, run this user roles and synchronization. So this one is already pending. Once someone has submitted, once this is completed, and when I'm going to run, so what happens is here I'm going to find two data access sets ledger. Either when I'm going to get into this system, either I'm going to get Amazon as an option to enter into the primary ledger or Sun Power. So let's say, for example, if I'm a CEO or CFO, whatever it is, or even a chief accountant, I will be getting both ledgers. So I can switch to this ledgers at any point of time.
It will
Okay.
be like a drop down list. Huh?
Exactly. It will be like a drop down list. So as a user, if I have access to both, I can select to switch one of them. And there is another mechanism also where it is called as data access set. We will discuss as that as well. So within the journals also we can switch. When we are entering a journal, we can switch at that time as well. Okay? So that is the first thing. So regarding this, let's say for example, we have access to the general ledger, right? General accountant and accounting manager. So for that reason, system will be providing access to these three options. So if I'm going to have accounts payable, based on that, we will have invoices, payments, and all those screens. This is a new, I'm going to say, screen totally in the Fusion. And based on this also, we can customize these pages. So there is something called as sandbox, okay? And that is corely related to the technical thing. Like if I want to change, have a company logo here instead of Oracle, our organization logo and all those things, that can be changed as well. So now, the moment I'm going to click on journals, I will have a drop down list here. So I will select either one, and based on that, I'm going to access that. So the moment, let's say, assume that we have two now, SunPower and Amazon. I'm going to select Amazon as of now. I click on create journal. So when I'm going to have here, you could see the batch. This is the screen where user is going to access the screen, or user is going to enter a transaction. In the production live system, only users will have access to the screens. We don't have it. And our restriction will be till UAT system, means test access. So there are three systems. One is development, where consultants will be having full access. They can do configurations, play around. Test instance is something where we, for example, a request comes from the user to make some change in the setup. We do that. Like a user says, instead of having two future enterable, make it one, or for example, something. So we change it. He will do the testing in test instance. That is access to both, and production is access only to the user. So here you are going to find the general batch, journals, and general lines. Now, the first question is, as a consultant, why I'm accessing this or why I'm trying to learn this? Any guess? My job is completed as a consultant. Now it's a user job. But still, we are into this screen, or we will try to learn what is each field in this. What can be the reason behind this? Yes,
Testing.
please. Testing. Perfect. So normally, whenever we are going to do the setups in the test instance as well, we first need to do test for ourselves before we hand it over to the users. And also, we will be part of the support, so we need to know exactly what each field is. We may be as a getting a job as a implementation consultant or as a support consultant as well, because Oracle, majority of those who are into Oracle are on the support side, because they do provide the support to all the clients. So now let's start with the journal batch. So what is a journal? Journal is something where we are going to record a transaction. Let's say, for example, I open my ICICI bank account. So Any transaction I'm going to do it, right? For example, let's say I transferred money from my ICICI to someone's account, or even my salary is credited, first salary is credited to my bank account. The transaction which happens is that is happening in this window only. So that is the reason it is called as journal, and we are going to create the journals here. So you could see those which are relevant with the asterisk or mandatory, and the latest open period will be available here, and you could see the source is manual. What is the source category of these things? Now we will start understanding slowly. We have approval status. Approval means for the journals we can give approval. What is the concept of approval is, let's say you are my manager. So when I'm entering a journal, I base on my rank or role, I may have limited access. Means if I'm going to create a transaction of 10,000, I can post it. But if it is something of 100,000 or 50, more than 50,000, based on whatever setup we do, it will go to the manager for approval. It happens in the real world as well. So there is something called as a module, which is business process management. We will exclusively work on that as well when we do the AP module, because in the AP, fusion expenses and GL, for the financial, these three modules will have the approval process. So for that reason. And the BPM or the business process management, the concept, how to do the setup or what we do internally is all one and the same for GL, for accounts payable and fusion expenses. Funds status. So this is something related to the budgetary control. So when we do the budgetary control module, which we have in our syllabus, we are going to define the budgets, and based on that, system will validate. Means if I'm entering a expense account, do I really need have that much money or budget in my account to spend or not? So that we are going to discuss. Badge status, we can always create a badge. As of now, it is not posted, so it is unposted. So there are three things here. One is save, complete, and post and cancel. Save means I just created I entered some data. I'm into rush, like I'm almost done with my office timing, so I can save it. Tomorrow I come back and I can again start work on it. Complete is something where we are sure that all the data, everything is done now. We need to now this is ready for next action, which is post. Post is something, is complete is something like you gave me a check, I just kept it here, entered here. I did not went to bank and deposited. I entered in my system that you have given the check. That is something complete. The moment I click on post, it is as good as like I have submitted my check to the bank. Means if I'm going to take a financial statement with complete, it is no relevant. Why? Because unless and until it is not posted, it does not reflect actual. For example, I just thought today that I will go to movie. Thinking to go to movie is a different thing, but purchasing online is a different thing, right? So in the same way, complete is nothing but, yeah, it's good. I just enter the transaction. At any point of time, I can delete the transaction. I can delete the journal. But once I post, I cannot delete the journal. There is something called as reverse mechanism. So We will discuss in detail more on this one on Monday. I will stop over here and I would request everyone to at least have from this. We know deploy has some issues still. So at least from the value set values till open for spirit. Please go ahead and do that and let's have more lectures. So when we on Monday meet up, I can assign or you can assign my primary lecture as well into that. I will copy this slide into the 66 under. Now I will create a folder as general lecture. Under that, I will copy that. Please have it as a assignment in next 2 days because you need to complete whatever we have covered till now.
Sir, you mentioned about BPM.
Hmm.
What is the difference between PCS? In OIC, we have PCS and BPM. Is there any correlation or how
No,
are
no,
they?
there is no correlation. BPM is something called as business process management. And earlier we used to have the workflow, which was part of the system, but now Oracle has defined or separated completely the workflow into a module itself. So we do have workflow consultants, like for example, for any purchasing, any payables, any expenses, all those workflows configurations will happen only in BPM, business process management. So we can give the conditions and it has become much more powerful compared to the earlier versions. Earlier versions was more core technical, but now this has become little bit functional as well. So once we access that, we will come to know that. You could see here, for example, now I'm going to assign this. So now you could see I have access to both that access set, sun power and this one. Okay. Click on submit. So I'm opening, for example, the accounting period has been defined. So once that process is done, we'll get here the access to multiple sets.